Hi, Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com here. DevOps Enterprise Summit, London 2016. Gareth Rushgrove of Puppet. Gareth, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
So Gareth, you presented this morning, and it's already this afternoon, but we've had a chance now to really kind of let it percolate for the day. Why don't you give our audience a little bit of a preview, well, it's not a preview because we've already done it, but a little synopsis of what you spoke about.
Yeah, so I got a chance to do a talk called Silos in Government, talking about communication, talking about language, talking about stereotypes, and how to sort of use them and follow them and break down sort of silos in large organizations. As I mentioned, I used to work for, I do work for Puppet now. I used to work for the UK government. So I was talking a lot of taking a lot of the stories that I had from my time working for the UK Cabinet Office and UK GDS.
Mm-hmm. So Gareth, we actually interviewed this morning the folks from the tax service, HMRC.
Yep.
And they actually mentioned you. They said, well, Gareth did a lot, reported a lot on government. I think one of the things we see in many of our readers is they tend to think of the government as a different animal, as a different horse, if you will, than just other large organizations. But in my past life, I've sold a lot to government as well and provided government with security solutions. They really are, in many ways, just the ultimate big organization. They as big as any private out there, certainly. But yet they do have some unique challenges that they deal with. How does that affect sort of their DevOps abilities or transformations?
Yeah. I think it's more aligned to what you said originally there, that government isn't really different. There are always different challenges with different sizes of organization, environments with different regulation or different history, but it's the same challenges, it's often the same practices. You might just scale them differently. I think one of the things that I'd spent a lot of time doing when I was at the government was convincing people who'd always worked inside government that actually they weren't that different. I think people with experience in, whether it's inside government or whether it's inside a bank or inside a startup, they think of themselves as different, more so than someone who's maybe worked across those different environments where you're like, actually, a lot of this is the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. You learn different commonalities, if you will. Mm-hmm. Gareth, I don't know if you have this in the UK, but back in the US we do, one of the biggest obstacles in the government piece is that you go into a government office and you'll have 10 chairs, but only 2 people are actually government, actual employees of the government. The other 8 are contractors, and they have a very different mindset, a very different end game.
They're incentivized differently.
Yes, that's exactly it. How does that affect the DevOps, the ability for DevOps to succeed in that kind of organization?
For me, yes. So I mean, I worked for GDS. I was a civil servant. I worked for the government, and GDS was set up really as a place where government could employ technical people as civil servants inside the government. And I don't think we'd have got as far as we did do and as far as the organization now has got since I've left without having a real core of people who were totally aligned with the organization. Mm-hmm. And that isn't a criticism of people who are contracting or other things. It's just that, as I say, your incentives are going to be somewhat different.
Yeah.
But government is also a very large organization, and it's always going to rely on external skills. I think certainly before GDS, the idea of government employing software developers was something that was regarded as totally something that should be done by the market. I think the reality is extremes are a bad idea. If you don't employ software developers, if you don't employ operators, if you don't employ security experts, if you're looking for contractors, if you're looking for suppliers, you won't know what to look for. And so it has to be a mix. And I'd probably argue that sort of 20% and 80% is probably too far. You're probably not going to be in a position to to know whether your suppliers are the best and doing the best that they can do.
I agree with you. I mean, in the U.S., it's a way for them to hide budget, right? So they don't pay it to employees; they're paying it out, and it's really just buying bodies, right? Even though they're paying it to a contract or whatever, and it's not. As you said, it doesn't have to be 100%, but an 80-20 going the other way is just it makes it very hard to get the culture on a continual basis for these kinds of things. And I think it, maybe the UK government is doing a better job of it perhaps than we are over in the US.
And my experience there was that it was trying. It's still very difficult to hire like highly skilled technical people into any large organization, and skilled technical people are in demand everywhere. So I think getting government to the point where it has the same hiring problems as other large organizations that are not fundamentally software companies, that's success. That's still challenging then to get work done, but that's like moving in that direction.
Understood. Gareth, let me pivot a little bit here and talk about the DevOps Enterprise Summit. Logo's here. What made you decide to present here today?
I've been wanting to come along to DevOps Enterprise Summit since Gene first ran the first one. I've not been able to come out to the US, just mainly through timing, and it coming to London. I live nearby. I was straight on saying I need to be there, whether I'm speaking or not.
What's your impressions been so far? It's only the first day, but
great. Really, I mean, I think. Like why I wanted to do that, why I wanted to come along, why I'm interested in is just that I've been part of the DevOps community for a long time. Like I've been part of the conversations, seeing it evolve, and this is part of that evolution. It's part of bringing more people in, and there's lots of people I know and like good friends who wouldn't like want to be here, and that's not a criticism of them or anyone who's here for the first time as their first DevOps event. It's just the fact that we're broadening the conversation. There are more people interested in DevOps that are interested in asking the questions, and people sharing their stories, and it's just interesting. Like we're hearing from larger, messier, real-world organizations.
Yeah, and we should mention we'd be remiss not to mention, Gareth, that you of course do the DevOps weekly newsletter. Comes usually on Sundays.
Yep.
Sunday morning, evening. Well, my mornings and your evenings, but I usually get it when I wake up at some point there, and I look forward to it every week. So
thank you.
You do a great job with that as well. But anyway, thank you so much for number one for presenting here. Number two for being on our interview. Keep it up, great. We didn't get a chance to talk about the recent Puppet Survey Lab, but we will be following up on that too. Maybe we could reach out to you. And thank you for everything you do for the DevOps community.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. This is Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com.